Alright, I hope you had an awesome break. Here we go. We're going to start right back up. Okay? The first thing I need you to know right here is that the midpoint M of line AB is the point that bisects or divides the segment into two congruent segments. So let's draw a diagram. We have the segment AB, and it says that M bisects or divides the segment into two congruent segments. Okay, so what's that means? If it says it's the midpoint, that means that that point is at the very middle of the whole segment. So both of these would be congruent distances. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at an example. This one's kind of challenging, but let's go ahead and take a look. Okay, so it says the map shows the route for a race. You are at X, right here. And X is 6,000 feet from the first checkpoint C. The second checkpoint, D, is located at the midpoint between C and the end of the race. So we know that D is at the midpoint of C and Y, so we know that these two guys are congruent. You know the total race is 3 miles, so this thing, 3 miles. How far apart are the two checkpoints? Alright, if we assume that a mile is 5,280 feet, we know that the race from X to Y is going to equal 3 times 5,280. Okay, that will give us the total amount of feet in the race. Okay, so that gives us, if you multiply it out, XY equaling 15,840 total feet. Okay? And if we use our postulate from earlier, we know that XY is going to equal each of these segments added together. So XC plus CD plus CY. Okay? Now it did give us a little bit of information up here. It said that you're 6,000 feet from the first station. Okay, so you know that the distance from X to C is 6,000. So we have XY equals 6,000 plus, and it doesn't give us CD or C or CY. We're just going to make them the variable A. We don't know them yet. Okay, so we have XY, which is equal to 15,840, and that equals 6,000 plus 2A. Okay, so let's go ahead and solve that. If you subtract 6,000 on both sides, you have 2A equaling 9,840. And if you divide that out, A equals, what does it equal? 4,920. Okay, so let's move on out. So you know that the distance between, or that A is 4,920, so the distance between here is 4,920, the distance between here is 4,920. Okay. That one was kind of hard, so go back and take a look if you need to. Okay. Example number 5, it says you are 1,182 meters from the first aid station. What is the distance to a drink station located at the midpoint between your current location and the first aid station? Okay, so we know the midpoint is the middle. So if you're 1,182.5 meters from the first one, all you have to do is divide it by 2 to find the middle, and that gives you 591.25 meters. Okay, that one's not too bad at all. If you need to take more time on it, you can. Okay, last example, example number 6. It says D is the midpoint of EF. ED equals 4x plus 6. And DF equals 7x minus 9. Okay, we're going to draw a diagram of this thing. Okay, it says D is the midpoint of EF, so we know it's in the middle. So we have E, then D, then F on our line. And it says that D is the midpoint, so we know that both of these are congruent. Okay, it says ED is 4x plus 6. And DF is 7x minus 9. Okay, so we know both of those are congruent. We want to find the distance for EF. Okay, so the way we can do that, since we know both of these are congruent or equal, we can set 4x plus 6 equal to 7x minus 9. Okay, and if you go ahead and solve that, you would subtract 4x on both sides. You have 6 equals 3x minus 9. Then you would add 9 to both sides. So you'd have 15 equals 3x. And then you would divide each side by 3, and x would equal 5. Okay, so our x equals 5. Now we know x, so we can go ahead and plug in each of our values. Okay, so let's plug in for ED. We know that ED is 4x plus 6, so we're going to plug in our 5 where the x was. So we have 4 times x plus 6. And if you multiply that out, that gives you 26 for ED. And since ED is congruent to DF, we know that DF is 26. Then we know that if you add ED and DF, you get your big line EF. And if you add 26 plus 26, that is going to give you 52. Okay, so here's your examples for this section. You guys are going to get the opportunity to do the lesson quiz by yourself. Peace out.